Stas23 here, and today we have the Kizer Torngat. This is a Styles design, and he is from Canada and has named this, I'm pretty sure, after the Torngat Mountains in Canada. Pretty cool. And he's had several designs already, 2 fixed blades, I think, and now a folder, then the 2 fixed blades. So it's cool to see his designs. Let's get some specs out of the way. You have a total length from tip to heel of 7.82 inches, a blade length of 3.26 inches, a grip area from this point to this point of 3.87 inches, handle scale thickness coming in at 0.47, and the stock thickness coming in at 0.119. Behind the edge thickness on the straight edge portion is around 16 thousandths behind the edge, and in the Tanto tip portion is around 21 thousandths behind the edge. Now, this is an interesting looking one. We have somewhat of a clip point Tanto blade shape on this one. S35 VN steel with a satin finish. You have the Kizer logo, blade steel on this side, the name of the knife, Styles Designs, model number. It's got a good bit of stuff. I wish they would not put the name of the knife and the model. Just put the designer logo and your logo, I think, in the small blade steel. I think that's more than sufficient. I like this nice top swedge up here. You got a nice robust tip for doing any kind of piercing work. You have functional row of jimping there. It does a good job of gripping the thumb, at least for me it does. And you also have a small little ramp with some jimping back there if you want to choke back on the knife. You do have a sharpening tool that clears the plunge, and you should have a little bit of sharpening. It comes down to about right here, so you should have a good bit of sharpening actually before it starts to widen up in the back. With that deep hollow grind, it should slice pretty well. Why don't we find out? Man, every Kizer that I've gotten this year has been ridiculously sharp, and this one is no exception. That hollow grind is just good. I wish Kizer would do more of these. They just perform so nicely. It's blasting through this cardboard like it's not even there. I was just trying to get my feel for this grip. I think later we'll kind of dive into a little bit more, but let's talk about the ergos and this piece of birch. Right at the back, I started out, putting a lot of pressure into it because I just wanted to see how that handle ergonomics were going to be for me. And for the most part, they were good. Kind of choked back a little bit. I noticed that the saber grip was the most control. Definitely, I could get a lot of power into it, but I was starting to feel the top of that pocket clip. You can see me kind of adjusting. And that raised gear backspacer, whenever I really started bearing down in it, was not the most comfortable thing. But, doing normal everyday EDC tasks, I think it's going to be excellent. You can definitely do this in a pinch. And you can do fine curls easily. Now we move to the 1/2-inch twisted sisal rope, the moment of truth, to see if it has any bite. Yep, I think it's doing great. Now, I'm mainly using that Tanto portion because it's just easier to push down like that onto the flat cutting surface. So it's definitely going to get the most workout, that smaller section. So I'm interested to see if it has any edge left to it after we get done with all this, because almost all the flat surface cutting, of course, is going to be in that area, either in the transition part of that Tanto or just the whole entire bevel of that Tanto. Because other than that, the back part's flat edge, and it's not the easiest thing to do unless you raise your material up onto something. But it's doing excellent. I was definitely happy with it. We did 45 cuts without a problem until we ran out of rope. That secondary edge on the Tanto is perfect for doing these type of drag cuts. I just didn't put enough pressure on the first one, because you can watch right here. I did it. It worked excellent. It was nice and sharp, and that edge still feels really good. You can see I'm mainly using that front portion the entire time, and that's not a really long, edge bevel. So it's like I said, going to be interesting to see if it has any edge left to it. I will be shocked. It struggled a little bit going through that heavier tubing just at the end. No problem whatsoever going through this compressed corner cardboard. It goes through it pretty darn nicely. And we move to the denim. It's got, you know, decent bit of aggression left, not the most in the world, but of course, you know, like I said, we're using that transition point and that tip area, so I wasn't shocked that it was kind of starting to dull down a little bit. So definitely think it did a great job for, you know, Tanto. All right, I'm pretty interested to see how this edge is, especially toward that tip. But let's see the back. Hold on, let me see that again. Yeah, the back is fine. You can kind of feel by that transition. It's not as sharp, but let's see. That's actually not bad because that's a pretty small edge. Hold on. Yeah, by the actual transition right here, it's probably the most dull. You can feel it. It still has a little bit of edge there. By the tip, it's a lot better. All right, let's close it up and take a look at this action. I think that's one place this knife shines. You got thumb hole deployment, and just watch this. Nice dialed in detent. Those ceramic bearings make it nice and smooth. Good drop. You can thumb flick it if you'd like. But that reverse flick is awesome with that nice generous blade hole. It is chamfered around there, but it's not slippery, at least not for me. If you wanted to, you could slow roll it as well. All right, let's take a look at the handle area. You have T8 on the pivot, nice pivot collar. I like that little accent of color right there. T6 on the body screws. Unfortunately, I would have loved to see T8 throughout. Nice addition of color as well on this titanium gear backspacer. It is raised from the scales. That's something I talked about in my testing. Whenever I was starting to bear down hard into the wood, this was kind of uncomfortable. And also this top portion, even though it's got a chamfer, when I started really bearing down, I could feel that. It wasn't terrible, but something I definitely noticed whenever I started really giving it some pressure. I like all the milling you got on the titanium frame. It is a flat scaled knife, as you can see. Nice chamfer going all the way around. But for the most part, it was comfortable. Now, you do have this extra long choil area. At first, it was a little odd for me because I was trying to go up there to choke up, which I could. But whenever I did that, that little hump wasn't the most comfortable. So I kind of just choked back right here. And it was pretty darn comfortable. But that's when I started feeling this geared backspacer. Your gear backspacer also houses a lanyard hole in the back. Let's close it up. This side you have a 3D mill titanium pocket clip with another addition of the color inlay titanium piece in there. I think that's a nice little touch. It is tip up right hand carry only, unfortunately. Let's check it out in the pocket. It does go in the pocket nicely. It's not deep carry. That's how much you have sticking out of the pocket. And if you have a lanyard, it will be on top, so you won't have it stuck underneath the pocket. The way that the clip curves like this, it keeps the knife curved to this side of the pocket. You can put whatever else you need to in there without it hitting a flipper tab or anything, because it's thumb hole knife. Check out all the little facets on the pocket clip. You got that facet right here underneath there. Then where the ramp is. On this side, you got another small facet. I just thought it was nice to look at least. Let's take a look at the inside. You have a bunch of internal milling in there to save on weight. Let's see, check that out, top and bottom. Let's check it out on the scale. First off, in grams, coming in at 120.8 grams or 4.26 ounces. The balance point of the knife is butt heavy. As you can see right here, it's right there in that portion. I would have loved to see it a little bit further up, but it still feels nimble in the hand. All right, let's check out the lockup. It's sitting at around, I'd say 60% or so. Bank vault, no movement, no side to side, no up and down whatsoever. Good access to the lock bar because of this cutout here and the chamfer on there. Nice access. And you do have a hardened steel lock interface there. Quick size comparison with the Hogue Ritter RSK and the Mini RSK. It's much more similar to the full-size RSK. Ontario Rat Model 1 and 2. And lastly, we have the Kizer Z82 and the Spyderco Smock. Smock's almost identical in overall length. Nitpicks and complaints. I would have loved to see not so much billboarding. Like I said, you don't need the name on there. Just have it on the box and the model number. It's just a lot of extra stuff. I think the maker's mark's nice, and of course, the branding. I get it, and the steel choice. Of course, it would have been nice to have it tipped for left-handed carry so they could enjoy it as well. Like I said, I felt the geared backspacer a little bit, maybe round over those. But, just depending on what type of cutting you're going to use this for. And I did feel this a little bit top part of that clip. But other than that, I enjoyed the performance of the knife. I enjoyed carrying the knife. I think it looks pretty good, even though I'm not really a Tanto fan. I love the hollow grind. I hope they do more of these. They do such a good job with it. I thought the steel held up nicely. The action is nice and snappy with this knife. It's kind of addictive, open and closing, just like all our other stuff. I think it looks nice as far as all the extra stuff they did on this one, like the little inlay for a nice little pop of color, so you're not all grayscaled right here. And, of course, the pivot ring and the backspacer. So, overall, like the knife. Think it's priced well, especially being that it's a collaboration design. Love to hear y'all thoughts down below. I will have links in the description if you're interested in one of these. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one.